Shoes are an everyday must. But what do you do when your shoes are no longer in use? While about 300 million pairs of shoes, slippers and sandals are being thrown into landfill every year, it takes about 30 to 40 years for just one pair to decompose. However, in a bid to achieve sustainable fashion in a circular economy, Ebuka or Maliko, the founder and creative director of Maliko, uses traditional technique of craftsmanship fused with contemporary designs to create its iconic shoes. The brand takes pride in being a socially responsible brand and a solid advocate for sustainable fashion by slowly handcrafting its pieces and encouraging zero waste.
Number one thing about sustainability I want to talk about is the fact that we are very ethical, meaning that a lot of our works are handmade and handcrafted, So some of these indigenous or traditional crafts that we make use of, we make sure that they are preserved by all means, by patronizing them, by using them in our works every day, Thirdly, is in the raw materials that we use. We make use of majorly second-hand leathers, We get them from the market and then we try to upcycle them. When I mean second-hand leather, it's actually leather that the big leather industry, the big brands or the big whatever have used, and they say, oh my God, I don't want to use this again, because of the fact that they have large orders and they are so profits driven, as opposed to us here. Profit is not the major thing here in my work, right? So as opposed to that, what we are just so bothered about responsible consumption, quality over quantity. If you're going to own one shoe or own 10 shoes, there should be shoes that you're using and shoes that are really, there is no point in having 1 million shoes and you end up using just 10 out of it. So we are just that kind of business that is very responsible from our production to our customers, to our, everything around me is responsible. And so that is where I like to backdate to my upbringing. This is when you grew up with somebody that that doesn't like waste. My grandmother, you can't waste. And so you can't even catch us producing things when it's not in order. Either a store orders it and you tell us this is the quantity we want, that's the time we can produce. We don't produce and use and say we predict that we are going to sell 100 shoes. No. Until you are ready to use them, that is when we make them down. So we are not part of the brand that say we are producing 1 million shoes, and then this 1 million shoes we are predicting that we are going to sell all of them. You know what I mean? So we are very, very mindful, and these are the things that makes us very unique when it comes to our business model.
While some companies are stepping up by developing new ways we can live in a more sustainable economy, one of the most innovative solutions is by recycling used textiles and leathers from major textile companies and recycling them into remarkable fashion statements and pieces that now cost over $500 per shoe. Now, let's talk about the personality behind Maliko.
So, living with my grandmom really helped me to see life in different perspectives, from time management to management of funds to everything. And all of these elements are things I've sort of imbibed in my work. And then that is even what makes the core value for my work. Yes, I'm a self-taught designer, and I was already in pharmacology before I found fashion. So it was just going to school just to meet, complete your degree. And then I had this friend of mine just say, oh, they're doing something in fashion. Do you want to intern? And I'm like, oh, let's go. It was just there that I came in contact with fashion, and it was Lagos Fashion Week. So I pretty much interned 4 years in the fashion industry. And so while I was interning, I also was asking myself, what part of fashion do I really want to major in? And so I got interested in shoes. And so I started designing shoes even while I was in school. And then that was how everything just kicked off. And then, we are here today. And not to forget that there are resources that you can get online, and your network with people, then you read. And for me, it was even more intense because at the time I started designing shoes, we didn't have brands to look up to. So it was even like, right now, people can now even look up to my brand and say, okay, this is what this brand is doing, can I do? So it wasn't like there were a lot of brands for me to look up to at that time. So I had to just follow my guts. When it has to do with the idea behind my work, fashion was really like, we have like, with clothing designers, we have almost like the same thing, but just that in craftsmanship is so different. For instance, when it's time for you to like come up with a collection, you do your research, and then all of these things, clothing designers and every other artist do these things, right? And so shoes for me, because I love shoes. When you meet me for the first time, the first place I look at is your shoes. And so apart from that, it was also like an industry that is not, I felt like wasn't saturated, and I felt like something had to be done. You know what I mean? So I had to start from that place. When I started doing my research, what are the technique of production I needed to imbibe, what is my aesthetics. So it was really, it's really easy for me to tell my stories and to, sort of like translate my aesthetics, my thoughts using shoes than every other form of art. And so if you look at my brand, we are very artisanal, which means that we make use of like every method of production that we can find in Nigeria as regarding our hands. There are different methods and techniques of production, from our weaving to our woodworks to our shoemaking. All of this technique of production I wanted to explore. Some of them are not directly related to shoes in itself. So what I do is that I come up with this technique of production, do research on them, and then think of how we can even imbibe them in our shoemaking. So it was something I find fascinating. So for each collection I make, I sort of look at, after the colors and the idea I'm trying to explore, the next thing I look at is, how do I make sure that these technique of production can go into these collections? You know what I mean? So they form like a core essence of my work. So there's this shoe, it's called Kenneth, right? It looks like the most tasking piece that I've ever made. Number one, it's tasking because I think there are over like 5 people that made this shoe that they didn't even know it was going to come out as shoes. So when you look at them from this, you see that there's a weaving that is going on here, made with hand as well. And then there's an embroidery, hand embroidery here. This person that did this hand embroidery is different from the person that made this particular weaving. And then the heels, the person that made the heels, so different from the person that even made the shape for the shoes. You know what I mean? And it's also different from the person that coupled the shoes. So when you look at the entire body of work or the entire piece, you can find that it's actually a product of cooperation from different elements. From the shoe, the person that made the last, to the heel maker, to the embroider, to the weaver, and then to the person that coupled the shoe. So all of these things are a product of synergy, which is very important for us. You know what I mean? So here in Maliko, what I do is making sure that different people or different elements of art in different places just sort of have a way of combining their efforts to making one piece. Do you understand? So I would also like to mention in this interview that we have decided to make use of local artisans, not because we can't get these things readily available. You know what I mean? I can get the molds from the market that is already maybe imported of anything. But I do understand that there are some people that spent years learning this thing, and it's so unfair to them if I just decide to work strictly with what I have imported. So it's just a way to make sure that that craft doesn't go extinct, which by now, by my studies, a lot of these crafts I'm even using are actually seriously going extinct. So designers like me that are ethically minded are making sure that they engage these people. When you engage them, what you do is that you teach people, the upcoming ones or the young people, that they can actually earn a living off it. So you also encourage them to say, oh, I want to be a shoemaker, I want to be a shoe designer, I want to be a pattern drafter, I want to be a last maker, and all of this. So with that, you're providing jobs and even encouraging people. And with that, 100 years time, you're still here saying that, oh, these set of people are still making. I think a lot of people, especially like people that know me from fashion or just know the shoe, they don't know that I sing opera. I'm a classical music singer. And then, I'm not just a classical music singer, my voice type is countertenor, which is like a very rare voice type, you know. And I enjoy classical music a lot. So it's also part of the thing that I enjoy doing. So before I create any collection, I have to listen to classical music for hours back to back to just be in that space of, oh, I'm ready to create.